Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible turnaround stories in history. It's all about a leader, a guy living a life of total luxury who gets some devastating news from 800 miles away. And what does he do? He takes on this mission to rebuild not just a physical wall, but an entire people. All right, let's get into it. So picture this. This is the report that lands in the lap of our guy, Nehemiah. He's living in a fortified royal palace, and he finds out his ancestral home, Jerusalem, is an absolute wreck. The survivors there are in disgrace, the city's defenses are gone, the gates are literally burned to the ground. And this news, it doesn't just make him sad, it completely shatters him.
And this is what's so wild about the whole thing. The contrast is just stunning. I mean, Nehemiah has one of the most trusted jobs in the entire Persian Empire. He's safe, he's powerful, he's living in a palace. And the mission he's about to take on, it means leaving all of that safety and comfort behind for a super dangerous journey to a desolate, unprotected city.
And he doesn't just get upset for an afternoon. No, he fasts, he weeps, he prays for days on end. For him, this isn't just some political problem far away. It's a deep, personal crisis. And it's this powerful grief that ends up becoming the fuel for everything that happens next.
So you might be wondering, who exactly was this guy and how on earth could he even think about pulling this off? Well, it all starts with his very unique job. Now, when you hear the title cupbearer, don't just picture a royal waiter. Oh no, this was a position of immense trust. Every single cup the king drank from passed through Nehemiah's hands first. He was basically the king's last line of defense against being poisoned, which made him one of the king's closest and most trusted advisors.
And this quote right here, wow, it just perfectly captures the insane danger he was in. Months after hearing the bad news, his sadness is still so obvious that the king himself notices. Now, in the court of an absolute monarch like Artaxerxes, looking sad could be seen as being unhappy with the king, and that could cost you your head. So Nehemiah is terrified, but you know what? This is his moment.
So, with the king's eyes on him and his life hanging in the balance, Nehemiah has to make a choice. And he decides to turn his private sorrow into a very public and incredibly audacious plan. And get this, he doesn't just vaguely ask for help. He comes prepared. He asks for official permission to go, and he even gives a specific time frame for his return. He asks for official letters, basically royal passports, to get him through hostile territories safely. And then, here's the kicker, he asks for timber from the king's own private forest. He's thought through everything: logistics, security, the supply chain. It's a masterclass in strategy, and it's our first big lesson here. Don't just show up with the problem, show up with a well-thought-out solution. And what's just incredible is, the king says yes to everything. He even throws in a military escort of captains and horsemen for protection. And just like that, with the king's blessing and resources, this impossible mission is officially a go.
So Nehemiah gets to Jerusalem, and after a secret nighttime inspection of the ruins, he rallies the people to rebuild. But, of course, the second they start laying stones, the opposition comes knocking.
And you have to see who answers the call. It's not a professional construction company. It's everyone. Priests are out there working on the sheep gate. Goldsmiths and perfumers leave their shops to patch up sections of the wall. You've got civic leaders, merchants, and even the daughters of a local leader named Shalom, all picking up tools and getting to work. It was a massive, all-in community effort. But some of the local leaders, guys like Sanballat and Tobiah, are absolutely furious. They see a rebuilt Jerusalem as a direct threat to their power. So at first, they just resort to mockery, trying to get in the workers' heads. This quote from Tobiah just nails their contempt. He's basically saying the wall is so pathetic that a single fox could knock it over. But when making fun of them doesn't work, the threats turn violent. So Nehemiah makes this brilliant move. He militarizes the construction site. He turns the entire workforce into a citizen army. Every single person, whether they were hauling materials or laying stones, had a weapon ready to go. It gives us this iconic image of a people so determined they're building with a trowel in one hand and a sword in the other. And the progress they make is just staggering. Even with constant threats, the people just had a mind to work. They get the entire wall connected up to half its final height in just a few weeks. And the whole thing, this massive stone wall surrounding the entire city, is completely finished in just 52 days. 52. It's so unbelievably fast that it just demoralizes their enemies, who figure this project must have some kind of divine help.
But just as they defeat the threat from the outside, a much more dangerous crisis explodes from within, and this is the kind of thing that could tear the community apart faster than any invading army.
All of a sudden, there's a huge outcry from the common people. See, while they were all busy working on the wall, a famine hit. And to feed their families, the poorer Jews had to mortgage everything they owned, their fields, their vineyards, their homes, to their wealthier countrymen, all just to buy a little grain.
And it gets so much worse. They'd already borrowed money against their land just to pay the king's taxes, and now they've lost their property and are being forced to sell their own children into slavery to their fellow Jews just to survive. The very soul of the community is being ripped apart by greed and exploitation from within.
When Nehemiah hears about this, he's not just disappointed, he is absolutely furious. But his anger isn't aimed at the enemies outside the wall, it's aimed squarely at the nobles and officials inside his own community who are getting rich off the misery of their own people. And he acts decisively. He calls a huge public meeting and confronts the wealthy elite right there in front of everyone. He demands they stop charging interest and immediately give back all the land and property they've taken. And this right here reveals a key leadership principle. You can't succeed if your own people are broken from the inside. Nehemiah knew he was building a just society, not just a wall, and he proved it by leading by example. He refused to take his own governor's salary for 12 years.
So the wall is built, the internal crisis is solved, and now the project moves into its final and honestly, its most important phase.
See, Nehemiah understood that a physical wall was just the beginning. The real goal, the true mission, was to restore the people's identity, their culture, their spirit. The wall wasn't the end goal, it was the safe space where the real rebuilding could happen.
So the people all gather together and they make this formal, written promise. They commit to a whole set of reforms designed to rebuild their unique culture and reestablish their core values. It was, in essence, a new social contract, a promise to redefine who they were as a people now that they were finally secure. The city is repopulated, the wall is dedicated with a massive celebration, and Nehemiah's initial mission seems totally complete. He heads back to his old job in Persia. But the story isn't quite over.
Because when he comes back to Jerusalem years later for a visit, he finds that the very culture he worked so hard to build is already starting to crumble. His old enemy, Tobiah, is now living inside the temple. The Sabbath has become just another busy market day, and all those core commitments the people made, pretty much ignored. The great renewal, it seems, was already falling apart.
So, what can we take away from this incredible story? Well, first, a leader's deep personal conviction can launch a vision that changes the world. Second, a brilliant strategy thinks about resources, security, and getting people on board from the very beginning. And third, you have to fight the corruption inside your own walls with the same passion you fight enemies on the outside. But maybe the biggest lesson of all is that building something is one thing, but maintaining it, that takes constant vigilance. The work of keeping a vision alive is never really finished. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to think about for any great project we might take on in our own lives.